What does the term domestic violence mean to you?
Usually, for me, I would think of somebody beating somebody else. It's all we seem to hear about when we hear about domestic violence on the radio. It's like male on female abuse in a relationship.
What I think of when I hear domestic violence is not even just physical aggression, it's also the mental aggression that someone can do towards you.
When I hear domestic violence, I think of particularly a guy punching his girlfriend or his wife. That's the first thing that comes to mind, a physical attack. I guess a man on a woman. When I hear the term domestic violence, it's physical abuse mostly, I think. And usually, I think male on female, the horrible term of a battered wife. That's immediately what comes into my head. I mean, the images that immediately come to mind are shadows. It's a male almost literally striking a female. If I was to see that, I'd instantly recognize it as that type of abuse.
Until we had the original focus group, I think a very stereotypical way I would have thought about domestic violence was male against female.
I honestly can't say I've ever heard. Maybe there has been, and I haven't heard it. But I haven't heard like a case of, say, when they're being discussed. Say there's a program on domestic violence or something, where we enter into it. Like, I think from our own community, we don't like to admit that this type of stuff goes on in the gay community, because like we're all lovely, we're all happy gays. Because honestly, like, I'm 62 and I'm just sitting here thinking, talking to you, and I don't know of any gay man that I've met that has ever spoken with me about a problem with violence. And it must happen. I mean, I've never thought about it before. Yeah, it has to happen. Like, I mean, I know of relationships that I've questioned, but you can't ask. Thinking back over my decade-long relationship, I never experienced physical violence, but looking back over these years, I think, yeah.
I had a partner for a couple of years before Pete, and the whole overall relationship wasn't abusive, but I guess one time there was. I wouldn't really say. I don't know. That's where you get into definitions. Whether I'd say rape, or they want to have sex and I didn't, or I was making a point about not having sex and they went ahead. So that's a big thing of which I'm conscious now, because like at the time I'm not sure I would have believed in necessarily rape inside a relationship, or the power dynamic inside a relationship would be considered abuse, because at the time it just seemed like the way things were. Like I think it's particularly important to reach out to those that are. I guess it's not just younger, but it's the whole thing of deserving it, that this is what you get for being in a gay relationship. And I think, yeah, some way to identify that this is abuse, that this is something that's happening. Like my reaction and the reaction of a lot of people is that if you're not physically being hit, it's not worth reporting it, or it doesn't really count, or while it counts, well, I think of it as abuse for me, but I'm sure that it wouldn't work in their statistics. Literally every day for about 6 months, I was asked, when you're moving out. I never really associated it with an abusive type relationship, but now I'm kind of pondering these kinds of questions you're asking me. It possibly was. It was very traumatic from my life point of view. It turned my life upside down, and I ended up being almost homeless because I had to move out and find somewhere to live. And I was asking friends where to live, I suppose, because I naturally associated abuse with physical abuse, maybe. I always, it wasn't that. There was no physical interaction or anything like that. It wasn't that type of experience for me, but I definitely, looking back now, I definitely think I was abused to some degree. At at the time, it didn't even occur to me. From what I can see, I think people don't really talk about it. I'm trying to think of friends of mine that are in gay relationships, and sometimes the relationships have ended, and it's only afterwards you realize, Jesus, really? You had to put up with that? I mean, at the time, just like any other relationship, like they try to hide it and believe that it's not happening. The funny thing is, I know more about legal remedies for straight women and lesbians than for any gay man, because I literally know where some of the buildings are, refuges for women. So I guess from a man's point of view, or a gay man's point of view, I would have nowhere. I wouldn't have a clue where to go myself. But then, as you probably know, there's a lot of open relationships in the gay community, and there's what I think they're called triads, where there's 3 people in a relationship, and I do know somebody that was in that, and there were definitely some sort of abuse going on. However, I didn't discover that until after the fact, and that one, I think, was a good few years. I'm not sure if there was physical abuse, but there was definitely emotional abuse going on. I was told afterwards. But at the time, I didn't know, and he's quite a close friend, so that was definitely covered up. I think it's probably denial, maybe. I don't know.
I've never thought about it in like too much in a gay relationship until we had the initial focus group session. A few years ago, I was going out with someone and everything started fine, but I didn't realize until I was outside of the relationship that there was a lot of mental controlling going on. Possibly because I was like, I was in love with this person and I was almost like buying our relationship. Not just from a monetary point of view, but just to please that person. I would like to think that I would have seen the red flags, and I didn't, because I loved that person and it seemed to be within an almost sort of expected behavior pattern or parameters of behavior, if you know what I mean. And obviously now, from looking from outside of that, I'm able to say, well, obviously that wasn't the case. Being abused is certainly swept under the carpet and not talked about, we all look at people and you see them on Facebook and you see them on Instagram and they're all got happy smiles, but you never know what's going on behind the closed door.